Mozart's Concerto, Concerto 271 in E-flat major, it's also number 9 in the chronology of Mozart's concertos, is a phenomenal work. The piano concerto is the vehicle for him in which is the essential Mozart. In other words, if all other Mozart were destroyed in some worldwide cultural and horrible catastrophe, if we had just the piano concertos, then the proverbial person from Mars could come down and learn about our culture, and they would know pretty completely who Mozart is. Because in the concertos, Mozart gets to do everything he likes to do, and principally he's a man of the theater and of opera, of character. Mozart knows how to write music for every possible occasion, from the most sublime to the most trivial. I mean, he can write requiem masses and, you know, music about love, and he can also write music about, you know, a servant in Figaro losing a hairpin. And he knows how to do it. He seems to have the whole human drama within him. In this piece, he's really quite challenging. He's only 18 years old, don't forget. One of the great moments in concertos is when you hear the solo voice as opposed to the mass. The orchestra plays all of its stuff, and you have all these themes laid out, and then comes the piano or the violin. It's like, oh, it's always an interesting and very charming and often very beautiful moment. Well, in this piece, Mozart throws all that away because the piano interrupts the orchestra in the middle of the second bar. The orchestra actually starts the phrase, bum, ba da ba ba bum, and you know, you're expecting the orchestra to go on, and the piano finishes the phrase. It was, and the very well-educated Viennese public that might have heard it, the aristocracy, would have listened to it, what's the kid doing? I mean, you know, it's like, how does this happen? So that's already a signal that we're not up for business as usual. Not that Mozart is ever up for business as usual, but this is really a declaration. And then we get what was called the normal tutti, where, you know, the themes are laid out, one beautiful theme after another, and it's coming to its normal end, and it's going to go bum, 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 and be finished, and the solo would start. And once again, the piano comes in early, with a trill over the whole thing. So it's like, what? You know, once again, it's another what moment. Just how does this happen? But then there's the recapitulation where it basically sort of all comes back together again, where everything sort of, all the ideas that have happened sort of get put together in the packages given to you again. And at the moment of recapitulation, which is, you know, usually quite standard, the piano says what the orchestra says, and the orchestra answers the piano. Now, these are small and charming things, but this is, as I said, it's probably nobody had ever pushed it that much. Then the next most astounding thing in this piece, and even more astounding some ways emotionally, is the second movement. Because Mozart writes here a slow movement in C minor. Now, once again, not so astonishing to us, but it was not. Minor has this sadness, this possible grief overtone, and he writes this very tragic, almost like a tragic movement in a Bach Passion, and he has even the first violin, second violins imitating each other, and there's this constant interchange. Every so often, toward the end of sections, it's almost like Mozart can't go on, and the piano breaks into recitative, which is once again a very Baroque opera practice. In other words, I can't sing anymore, I have to speak. I mean, of course, the piano can't speak, but there's a way of approximating the recitative. And it's altogether an astounding masterpiece of great depth and beauty. Then in the third movement, he's more or less back to opera buffa, the comic opera, where it kind of just goes on, and it's really, really happy. I mean, it's joyous, and, you know, he's just jumping over, you know, hills and enjoying things. And then suddenly he comes to a full stop with a trill and a little cadenza, and he just interrupts himself and breaks into a minuet in A flat. Totally unrelated to anything that's come before. Different speed, different everything. Also, once again, people would have said, what's going on? What's a minuet doing in the middle of this finale? And who knows? And it's just very beautiful. He uses new orchestral touches where there's pizzicato accompaniment to the piano melody, so the strings are playing, but they're not sustaining. Strings can go wah, but they're going pop, pop, pop. And the piano, which can only go blom, is actually having a singing melody. I mean, Mozart's showing his orchestral genius here. Here he comes with a, you know, fully formed masterpiece at age 18, sort of saying, "Here I am, world," you know. So it's a pretty astounding and just unbelievably beautiful piece.